Hi, welcome to part two of tutorial six, selection techniques in Photoshop. If you recall from the last time, we really talked about these first three categories here, the regular, rectangular and elliptical marquee, the lasso tool, and the polygon lasso tool. And we also talked about the magnetic uh, um, polygon tool. So this part two, is going to deal with what I kind of call the semi automated modes of selection in Photoshop. So in addition to being able to just trace around things or draw marquees around things to select them, Photoshop has several different modes that allow you to select areas of an image based on color, based on edge definition, based on kind of texture. So this tutorial is gonna focus on these methods down here. So if you remember from the last one, we used some of the first tools and the quick mask mode to go in and select Danny and move him over here. Now we're going to take a look at a couple other methods when you have some more complex edges. So you can see here in this scene, we've got these low hedges and these other shrubs. And let's say I wanted to select this low hedge around the sidewalk, but I've got all these other little elements next to that. So the best method for using that would be the quick selection tool, and we'll come back to the magic wand in a second. The quick selection tool allows you to select an area based on kind of similar texture and color. So it's kind of like the magnetic um, polygon tool, but you can see here as I pull along here, it's looking at kind of what has the same texture that I'm rolling over. Now, if I go to my quick mask mode, you can see it's selected a lot more than that. One of the things about using this tool is, one, you can check the auto enhance, and two, we need to go back and forth. So I'm going to click on subtract from selection. Now, for some reason, Adobe decided that this is replace, add, and subtract, but they use completely different icons for this particular tool. I'm not sure why, but they're pretty easy to understand there. So now if I go in and kind of work my way back around here, I can kind of pull through there. One of the things that also might help is if I move in on that selection. So I find this works pretty well, but you have to kind of go back and forth a little bit. And it seems to learn as you're doing this. So you notice this time it didn't select all that other area. Now I've got a little bit of this in here. So every time I go through it again, it's kind of figuring out what it is I want. So I'm just going to keep working my way through here. And you can see it actually is getting pretty good at figuring out that. So compared to my first selection, if I look at it now, you can see we've got pretty good. I'm over a little bit here. I missed a little bit there. So again, if I go back to regular selection mode, go to plus, one thing I can do also is reduce the size of this brush a little bit, which gives me a little better resolution on this. Get rid of that. Let's go back to add. So again, sometimes you see a big jump like that. Come back in from the other way, and it kind of refines that. So just so you can see how that's working, I'm going to subtract a little bit more. You can see that's doing a pretty good job of getting around there. Again, I'm trying to do this all with one method. Probably be smarter to do a little bit of this, go to quick mask mode, and then clean it up in here. But you can see if I just do a quick adjustments, hue saturation, I could adjust the just so you can see what's going on there. So anyway, you can see that that works pretty well. It's looking for texture, and it will kind of go over and come back, and you just have to work back and forth, change your brush size, and zoom in on that in order to get that kind of fine tune that selection. Now, the other tool that's in this pop-up is the Magic Wand. And it's a great tool for selecting areas of uniform color. So if I come in here and click on this, you can see it's selected that. Now you might think, well, visually, you know this is all one piece. Why didn't it understand that? Part of that has to do with this setting up here, the tolerance. So if I set that up to 30, then I can come back in here. Let's deselect that first. And now you can see it's almost getting every bit of that. There's a couple areas in there that are not quite. If I do add to selection. So anyway, you can see if I go to my quick mask mode that that's getting those areas pretty quickly. So anytime you have areas of uniform color, the Magic Wand works pretty well. Now if I try the same thing with deselect that with the sky, you can see that it's getting almost all of that. But now I can switch to add, and I can just kind of click on that, click in this area, click in this area. And the reason I have to keep clicking right now is because I have this set on contiguous. So it gives me control every time I click on an area. Now, of course, this could take me a while to select all these pieces in here. So again, deselect that. If I uncheck contiguous, I can click in here. And if we look at that, you can see, well, that's done a much better job. It's gotten all this area along the tree. It's missed a little bit up there, but unfortunately, I've also got some red areas over here because they're not connected. It selects everything that has that value or that tone of color. So I'm not going to worry about that for right now. I'm going to click in there and let's look at that. Yeah, so I've got pretty good collection of the sky there that I've selected, but I have a piece of the building on the downspout, the lights. But because I can subtract from a selection, this is where I will go to my lasso tool, go to subtract from selection, and just select that in there. Select that out of there. Select that out of there. Since I know everything outside here, I'm just going to draw down along this building, all the way along here, all the way up around, and just select that so you can see. Let me zoom out a bit. Do the same thing, just select all the way around here. And now if I go to my quick mask mode, you can see that all I have selected is the sky area. So in that case, the Magic Wand, in this case, the sky was it had a few patches of blue sky in there, but it was fairly uniform. I still have a little bit right in this area, so I'm going to go out of that mode, get rid of that. And again, if I wanted to paste in a different sky, or let's see, maybe I want to put a gradient in there. So anyway, just to give you an idea. So if I wanted to replace that with a different sky from another photograph, or just a gradient like that to make it simpler, you can see how that Magic Wand can give you a really quick way to make selections of a basic color. And the tolerance that we have for the Magic Wand, that's what really determines. When you click on a pixel, it looks at that color, and then it looks at the tolerance and says, how far should I look beyond this particular color that you clicked on? And it looks for the larger the tolerance, the more variation it looks for in the selection. So again, just because I find I use this a lot so that you can click on something, you may get a lot more selected that you want, but then it's easier just to go back in and deselect pieces and end up with that selection and trying to use, instead of using the contiguous option, which means you have to click on every single section in order to get that selected. So that's the quick selection tool and the Magic Wand. Both of those have applications. And again, just like before, sometimes we use those by themselves, but most often you're going to use them in combination with the other tools. So you really have to think about, what am I trying to select? What's the best way to start? What's the best way to finish by refining it. And in some cases, you still may want to go back to the quick mask mode in order to refine those selections. But these are kind of really important tools because they allow us to, as I said, not only extract parts of images to use in our photo montage, but as you'll see in the next tutorial, they allow us to control where those images get placed within an existing image. So we look at layer mask and paste into technique on tutorial 7. You'll see how all this comes together.